But first, a key part of President Trump's campaign was pledging to restore prosperity and to ease the anxiety for those left behind by globalization. Income inequality was a problem during President Obama's tenure, too. The trend began well before either man took office, and the widening gap here is connected to growth in other parts of the world. Our economics correspondent Paul Salman has been exploring those trends, and it's the focus of his weekly segment, Making Sense.
The good news is that people that are around this point A, like 1/3 of the global population, have done really quite well.
At the City University of New York Graduate Center, economist Branko Milanovic. And the hottest curve in economics right now, charting the climb of 1 billion out of poverty and explaining the rise of China, the rise of populism in Europe, the rise of Donald Trump. And thanks to its pachydermal profile and Twitter, it has an almost unforgettable name, the elephant chart.
I remember in June 2012, the first time that I saw what later became the elephant chart, I was immediately struck because I thought, well, that's exactly what we all knew.
And what is it that we knew?
Well, we knew that China and large groups of people in Asia who are not very rich compared to the Americans have done very well. We knew that lower and middle class Americans and Japanese and Germans have not done well. And then we also knew that the top 1% in the rich countries have done well.
Now, at the risk of Dumboing this down, let's take the elephant chart from tail to tusk. For that, we have to head into the wild blue yonder of my producer's basement. On the bottom, the horizontal axis is the entire world population, arranged by their incomes back in 1988. Poorest over here on the left, the richest to the right. Just past the middle, at about the 55th percentile, a family of 4 with $3,000 a year after-tax income. A middle-class U.S. family taking home $30,000 a year would land about here, at the 80th percentile. And in 1988, $160,000 of after-tax income would have lifted you into the global 1%. On the vertical axis, going from bottom to top, is how much income grew in percentage terms over 20 years, from 1988 to 2008. The two winning groups, the fabled 1%, and those in the middle of the income distribution. As for the poorest,
they had about a 10% rise.
If they started with like $2 a day, now they have $2.3 a day.
But now, what this story is telling us is here, at the middle of the income distribution globally,
right.
Those people have almost doubled their income in real terms after taxes.
After taxes, yeah. And as you can see, this is not a small group of people. So we are talking about people from the 40th percentile to the 70th. So this is almost like 1/3 of the global population who have done really quite well.
And who are we talking about here? These are the Indians in Bangalore, the Brazilian middle class, the South Koreans, the Chinese who flocked from the countryside to the cities.
There was a large chunk of people, 2.5 billion, who have done extremely well.
And those are the people up at the top of the back of the elephant.
Top of the back of the elephant. So basically what is called the resurgent Asia.
Resurgent Asia indeed. Now, you may have seen one of the most popular TED Talks of all time.
Income per person on this axis instead. Poor down here, rich up there.
The late, great Hans Rosling depicting this phenomenon in his own inimitably graphic way.
You see, China under foreign domination actually lowered their income and came down to the Indian level here, whereas UK and United States is getting richer and richer, and after the Second World War, United States is richer than UK. But independence is coming here, growth is starting, economic reform, growth is faster.
So the good news is that income inequality has, from a global perspective, gone down, as the incomes in the developing world rise, catching up with incomes in the developed world. And that's a point the elephant chart is often used to make. But perhaps the chart's most memorable message of the moment is the crisis of inequality in the very well-developed world, the hollowing out of the middle class in France, the United Kingdom, and especially the United States of America. Here, at incomes of about $20,000 to $100,000 a year, inflation adjusted, there's been negligible income growth for decades.
Once you get to the 70th percentile, So you're the richest 30% of the world's income distribution falls off a cliff.
True. These were really people who are generally dissatisfied with their economic position and who feel threatened by migration and who feel threatened by lack of jobs or insecurity of jobs. And you look at actually who are voting for Le Pen in France, who voted for Brexit and Trump. We saw that this sort of a growth of right-wing populism is driven, on the one hand, by this insecurity of jobs, which is a result of globalization, and by migration, which is also part and parcel of globalization.
And globalization was supposed to be win-win for everyone, wasn't it?
One thing was promised to them essentially with globalization, they will all get better off, and then gradually they see that their wages are stagnant, and they've been stagnant for 25 years.
The rich get richer, the trunk of the elephant tilted skyward.
And then, of course, you look backwards, and then you see that these people might be catching up to you.
Right. Because they actually are coming on a big tide, like a wave, then really your relative position is going to really slide down quite quickly.
And so we end with the jumbo takeaway, that while a rising middle class in the developing world has been narrowing global inequality for decades, the story's been just the opposite closer to home, and fueling a reaction as radical as it is understandable. For the PBS NewsHour, this is economics correspondent Paul Solman, reporting from the City University of New York and my producer's basement.
And we're just glad you're safe, Paul. And there's more of Paul's conversation with economist Branko Milanovic on our website. You can find it at pbs.org/newshour.